Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. Complex, yet delicate to be sure. And now, your hosts and owners of SoNapa Grille, Adam Barringer, Chris Botting, and Joe Bates.
We're live. No, it's interesting. This is our 16th episode. Oh. Yeah, hopefully everything's recording good and our sound is good.
We're getting better and better each time.
I don't know. You would think so.
Yeah, like a fine wine.
But we were at the Ormond restaurant and met some of your friends yesterday.
We did.
George, what the two old gentlemen?
Oh yeah, Ed and Richard.
Yeah. And they had some recommendations.
Known them for 20 years, yes.
Recommendations for us to have. Listen, you want more people to follow, you got to have better content. Right. I don't think we could have better content than what we are about to do today.
Agreed.
The first
winemaker from Napa to be on the podcast.
I am truly honored.
Oh, listen, we're honored. This is
honored
awesome.
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So yeah.
And so my name's Adam Barringer, founder of SoNapa Grille. My business partner, Joe Bates.
Kim Braddock, Foley Family Wines, large and proud.
And I am Alison Rodriguez. I'm the winemaker at Silverado Vineyards.
Yes, and back in September, we had the opportunity, because of Kim, to take a tour of Silverado. It was absolutely amazing, and as we're cruising through a hallway, there you are in your winemaker gear, and you're like,
yes.
You were focused. You're like, okay, all right.
Well, September's busy time.
Yeah, September's pretty
I'm sure all
busy.
years are busy time,
like
but
a little, it is. That is true. We're busy all year long. We're actually finishing up a bottling run right now.
Okay.
So I have a great team at the winery that's taking care of that. Our last week of bottling, yay! Wow. But September is our busiest season, right? Like we have to be on point every day. I mean, I'm sure you guys kind of know how that goes.
Oh,
in the restaurant business, you got to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the grapes are coming in, you better be ready.
Yeah.
So that was one of those days.
Yeah.
But a fun day, right?
Well, it was neat because the winery was closed that day to the public, but we were lucky enough to get in and do our tour. And so and we just bumped into you in the hallway as you got your jeans on, and you were gracious enough to stop and chat with us for a few minutes, and very cool.
Such a beautiful harvest last year. 2023 is really an absolutely spectacular vintage. That's right.
Oh wow!
So already got our Sauvignon Blanc out,
and I think you had said that you had already just brought in the Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes,
right before we got there.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
So this is the finished product of what you were talking about in the hallway.
Yeah,
awesome.
So if you happened to see any grapes while you were there, that was probably what it was. So this is actually from one of our single vineyards. So we have 5 estate vineyards at Silverado. And I guess the first thing I should say is we are a 100% estate winery. So sometimes I say that, and I think it takes just a little while to land with people, right? Like, what does that really mean? What it means is every drop that is in this bottle comes from one of our own vineyards. So we planted the grapes and we took care of them. We nurtured them, we harvested them, we fermented them, we elevated them in our winery, blended them, bottled them under our own roof with our own team, right? Out of our own 300 acres of vines.
So you raised those babies.
We did. Can you tell I take this personally? I love these grapes.
You raised those babies.
I know them all by name.
Right.
So this is a beautiful vintage of Sauvignon Blanc.
That's really
nice. This is from the Yountville AVA. It's really a contiguous part of our property at Silverado. So Silverado is well known for being right in the heart of the Stag's Leap district. But the Napa River kind of bisects our property. And so on the one side, we're in the Stag's Leap AVA. That's where we grow all of our Cabernet. That's on all those beautiful weathered granite soils coming down from the Leap. And then on the other side of the Napa River, that's where the river has actually over the eons just kind of, laid out this beautiful, deep, richer clay and alluvial, gravelly soils, perfect for Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. So all of our property on the west side of the river is Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, and everything on the east side of the river is Cabernet Sauvignon. So pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. That's awesome.
Yeah, Miller Ranch, 100% from that ranch, 100% from our own ranch. And the 2023 is
so not only
4%
estate grown
Semillon.
for this one, but vineyard specific.
Yeah, vineyard specific.
Okay.
So.
Semillon, you were saying.
Yeah, I was saying it's that's okay.
That's a good grape, I was just kind of elaborate on.
I always love it when I get a little lost in the nose of a wine, right? Like you get momentarily distracted and you're like, oh yeah, that's in there. Oh, gooseberry. Like I don't know if anybody here knows what a gooseberry is, but I got my winemaking degree in Germany. So believe it or not, gooseberry is a thing.
Okay.
And it kind of has some of that like if you think about like a cross between a grape and maybe like a passion fruit, right?
Okay.
So it's got a really nice tropical character to it, even though it's this little tiny berry that grows in much colder climates than we have in California, or for sure for Florida.
Well, it's drinking beautifully.
No, that is nice and fresh.
It's a little softer.
You know what this would seriously? You know what this would
some
pair?
Typical Sauv Blancs.
You know what it would pair well with? You know.
I have a personal choice.
Gazpacho. Watermelon gazpacho.
Oh,
yes.
You know what? You're absolutely right. No. So we had some wine dinners over the course of the last few days, and Adam made watermelon gazpacho to pair with one of the courses. Yes. Garnished with some fresh mint and feta.
Ooh, I was going to say feta. That would be great.
It was really fantastic.
Tang.
And we paired that one with an unoaked Chardonnay.
I thought you were going to tell the story. I mean, we got a winemaker that makes wine, and then
there's more to the story here. I see.
Well, we were doing.
Yes.
I was making gazpacho for 130 people. Right, so we had.
You had a lot of watermelons.
So many watermelons.
Who was the one that had to butcher those?
No, I did. And Joe was right next to me.
So I'm cutting something else for the wine dinner, and I'm looking over at him, and there's watermelon everywhere. I don't know if you ever saw the comedian Gallagher.
Yes. Yes.
It looked like Gallagher just got done with his set. There was watermelon everywhere, on Adam, on the floor, on the counter. There's a blender blending over here, and I'm just looking at him like, okay, what's happening over there? We should have had that on video. It was fantastic. So, an hour to make the gazpacho, an hour to clean up after the gazpacho. But yeah, this would pair great with that.
This is awesome. Well, think of all the things on the menu that it would pair well with.
I'm thinking the Humboldt Fog right away.
The Humboldt Fog,
but
also the SoNapa salad, the Dutton Ranch apple chicken salad.
Oh, that salmon salad?
Yeah.
Fantastic with the blood orange vinaigrette. This right next to it.
Yeah, I love the citrusy notes that we're able to capture. Right, there's some grapefruit in there, some like ruby grapefruit. I always think about. I love the sort of melon characters that we get in there too, and just beautiful bright acidity. So one of the things I'm always thinking about as a winemaker is kind of like you would do in a restaurant kitchen as a chef. You're thinking to yourself, how do I bounce flavors off of each other so that it makes the dish more interesting? Well, I think the same thing about wine. So when I go to harvest our 92 acres of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon out of Miller Ranch, I think to myself, I want to have a real diversity of flavors. I want to have some complexity in the wine, and especially with white wine, a bright, crisp, refreshing white wine like Sauvignon Blanc, you have to grow it right in the vineyard. If you don't capture those flavors and characters in the vineyard, you're not going to come up with them in the winery, right? Like there's no oak aging, there's no malolactic here. It is just a pure expression of that fruit in the vineyard.
You can't make great wine from bad grapes.
Right.
No, that's no.
You probably make bad wine from good grapes. You probably screw that up.
True. Interestingly, that is
but it's got to start. It's got to start in the vineyard.
Yeah. So I'm always looking for, how do I get all those different facets of Sauvignon Blanc into one glass, right? Something that's a little bit greener and more mineral, perhaps, something that's a little bit riper. How do I bring some body into this wine? So this wine also does see about 5% fermentation in neutral French oak barrels. So these are barrels that are older than 5 years. I'm really not looking for any kind of aroma in the wine of the oak. I'm just looking for texture, right? So I'm always thinking about I think yesterday I was talking about this. I'm not just thinking about flavor and aroma. I also think about texture and structure and the shape of
mouthfeel, maybe?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Imparted from that oak? Because typically Sauv Blanc is in maybe concrete or stainless steel.
Definitely. I mean, there are, there's as many different ways to make a Sauvignon Blanc as you can imagine. But for sure, typical would be stainless steel. But for me, I find that the stainless steel is beautiful for preserving all that fruit and acidity and that wonderful snappiness that is part of Sauvignon Blanc's, reason for being, right? Its soul, really. But sometimes it's just a little bit angular. It's a little bit too sharp on the palate. So I really find that just a touch of that barrel fermentation in really neutral vessels. It does. It softens it up, it rounds out the front of the palate.
Seed barrel? Or
no, it's 5%.
And then
so 95%
blended with
is stainless steel,
the wine
tank
that sees stainless steel.
5% in neutral oak barrels.
It does really soften it.
Just a touch.
And how long have you been the winemaker at
I have
Silverado?
been the winemaker for 2 years now. So I'm the third winemaker in Silverado's history. So the winery has been around since 1981. So we've got 43 years of wonderful, incredible winemaking in Stag's Leap, and I have some shoes to fill, but I feel like I'm on my way, and it is a fantastic property to get to know, to learn, to build, to really work with.
I mean,
incredible.
It's a beautiful place to go
it's
to
like
work.
It's a winemaker's dream.
Really
I'm not kidding.
Right.
It is a winemaker's dream.
And and correct me on the history of it. Wasn't it one of the Disney heirs that?
It was
started?
actually Walt Disney's daughter.
Okay.
So Diane Miller was Diane Disney. Her mother, Lillian Disney, Walt Disney's widow, they founded it together with Diane's husband, Ron. And they founded it in the mid-'70s. They were looking for vineyard land. And after a while of growing great grapes and selling their great grapes to other people and having seen what kind of renown and accolades some of those grapes were able to achieve, they were like, maybe we should get into this wine thing. So they built a winery in 1980, and they brought out their first vintage in 1981. So we have a long connection with the Disney family, and I have to say, one of the things I appreciate so much about our founders is how they just loved the wine business. They loved everything about wine, and they loved the history of wine. They loved they loved finding out about these incredible touchstone vineyards that they, kind of very carefully and slowly collected, if you will, for their estate program. They built a beautiful winery that was built to last. There's things in my cellar that nobody ever sees unless you're actually working there. Like, we have these gorgeous handcrafted stained glass windows of native flowers of California.
Wow.
Literally nobody ever sees.
Right.
Like, we get to enjoy them just hanging out in the barrel room. We have these gorgeous 4-inch thick oak doors that when I first got to the winery, I was like, those look kind of heavy, but they're so perfectly balanced. They're so beautiful.
Well, Disney doesn't do anything fast.
No, they don't. And apparently they never did. And I guess why would you?
Right.
They certainly had the resources to absolutely bring every part of their vision to life. And I have to say, the one thing that really struck me the very first time I entered Silverado was I came through the door of our amazing hospitality center and turned the corner, and it still gives me goosebumps. I kid you not, I have goosebumps right now. I turned the corner, and there's this incredible view out to Mount St. Helena, out across Stag's Leap, across Oakville, across this amazing valley. And I just thought to myself, what, this is jaw-dropping.
Really,
right?
I would say in the valley itself, it's one of the most beautiful properties.
It is just stunning, and it really gives you an incredible overview of that amazing valley that I call home. Right. So really special place.
And then when did Foley Family Wines?
It was just before Alison. Right, it was kind of around that same time.
Yeah.
So besides the Sauvignon Blanc, moving into some of the other expressions, we have the Carnero Chardonnay, which we're not tasting today.
And that's on our menu.
And it is on the menu.
It is on the
menu.
menu.
Delicious. And kind of not too oaky? How do you not too acidic? Nice balance.
I think one of the things that I really cherish about working with Silverado for the last few years, I've worked with fruit and vineyards out of every AVA in the Napa Valley.
Wow.
So I kind of feel like I've had an amazing chance to learn from some of the best winemakers and really focus on the valley as a whole. And the thing that I'm really impressed with is just how balanced our fruit is coming out of the vineyards themselves. So one of the things that I think is important to think about when you consider Silverado, we spend so much time growing these amazing grapes. So when it comes to our winemaking, we want to make sure that we're supporting and framing that beautiful fruit. Right? We're not trying to overpower it. Plus, I think there's always been a focus at Silverado for making wines food friendly, which is a term I hear a lot in this business. I've been in this business for a little while, and when I first heard it, I was like, what does food friendly really mean? Do you have like food unfriendly wines? Like, what's that? I don't know.
Maybe wines that you don't need food.
Right. I just,
Those are porch pounders, I think we call that.
Okay, that is the term. It's not food unfriendly. Right. So for me, food friendly means that you want to have a great diversity of aromas and flavors, but also you need to have enough acidity in a wine to stand up to the acidity in your food. Otherwise, your food completely overpowers your wine, and that's not really fun to drink. You want the two to complement each other really well. So for us, important to our Chardonnay is a very light touch with the oak. I use typically medium and light toast barrels in that program. It's all French oak. So French oak, just to give a little bit of context for those out there that might be watching this, it's usually a little bit
one of you six. Right. One of the 6 people watching this. And in full disclosure, we're filming this at 9:30 in the morning. So when you see these empty glasses, it is not the afternoon typical.
It's not
podcast. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
We're having breakfast tonight. But
yes.
I will be honest. I do most of my tastings I do at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
So I'm only half hour out, so it's all good.
Perfect.
So French oak typically has a lot of characters that I like to think of as like walking into the best bakery you've ever walked into in your entire life,
all
right? That really
smells.
beautiful like pastry kind of smell, that toasty but not, smoky kinds of flavors. So we use French oak on our Chardonnay, very light touch. It is 100% malolactic. It is 100% barrel fermented, but a lot of people, when I taste them on it, they are very surprised to find that out because it still has beautiful structure, aroma. It reminds me a little bit of like lemon zest, lemon curd, beautiful graham cracker. I suppose if we got some toasted marshmallow going on, it'd have a beautiful lemon meringue pie. But it is a really fun Chardonnay to drink. So
thanks for supporting that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I just want to say, you probably have your own style of winemaking. I mean, this is absolutely delicious.
Oh, thank you.
This is amazing. And Kim knows that in the past, I have felt that Silverado, to me, seemed more a little bit drier, a little more old world style, and it really has not necessarily resonated with my palate. Although when we were out there drinking the Geo, for some reason, that did.
It's amazing what a great vineyard can do.
But when we were out there, then Kim was kind of telling us that you really have your own vision and your own style, and we could see maybe a little bit of changes in how the wine is versus your predecessor.
Sure. I think, one of the things to keep in mind is it's impossible to really think about winemaking without thinking about the person making the wine, right? But it's also impossible to think about winemaking without thinking about the place where you're growing the grapes, right? And it's impossible to think about it without thinking about the vintage. So each of these things has an incredible influence on how your wine actually comes out in the bottle. So, how much influence does a person have? For sure, some. What does my personal style look like? How much influence does the vineyard have? A ton. And the vintage, right? So each of these things plays a role. My philosophy for winemaking is, and I think the Sauvignon Blanc is a great example of this. I grew up in Louisiana. I'm a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the famous wine growing region.
Okay.
Of of Tiger Stadium. No, just kidding.
LSU.
I'm not an LSU grad, but I grew up around
Right.
around the place, and I still watch a little bit of Tigers football for sure. But I grew up in Louisiana, and like many places in the Southeast, we grow incredible peaches, right? Incredible stone fruit. And I absolutely, once you've had a peach that is completely at the perfection of ripeness in the summertime.
I don't think there's anything better.
You'll never forget it. You will never
Juice
ever
dripping.
forget it.
I knew you were going to say it down your hands.
Eat it over the sink, right? And you're just like, I am so happy in this moment.
Yeah, I'm in my happy place. I'm in my happy peach place.
Indelibly, inscribed into my memory, right? So that kind of succulence is what I'm looking for in the type of fruit I have. So it is something that is, I guess it's maybe a little cliche to say the perfection of ripeness, right? It sounds a little hoity-toity, but it is. I'm looking for that bright, vibrant fruit. I'm looking for that beautiful acidity that supports it, and flavors that just carry on, and something that's memorable, right? So that's really what I'm looking for in my fruit. That's really where I hope to drive our style, right? So gorgeous, peak of perfection fruit, not overly ripe, not underripe. I really look for that wonderful flavor and freshness, right? You still have to have some freshness in your wine. If you miss that moment, that's also something you can never get back in the winery, right? So, for sure, a little bit more complicated than all of that.
So how do you balance? So I imagine Silverado, as all wineries, kind of have a house style.
Sure.
So how do you kind of balance Alison's personal style with Silverado's house style? They probably don't want
similar to our chef.
Somebody straying too far off.
Yeah.
Well,
the keeper on a short leash.
No, not a short leash.
It's not. Yeah, I get what you're getting.
They probably don't want you going off the rails. Hey, look what I made.
No, I don't think so. I think it is a journey. And the one thing about it that's great is winemaking is also a journey, right? Once a year, you get a chance to do this. Once a year, right? So when you think about the number of times you actually get to make wine in your lifetime, it's a pretty finite number.
Sure.
And it's a long process. It is.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe. Anyway.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about this Cabernet?
We sure can. So this is our estate Cabernet Sauvignon from 2019, a beautiful vintage. I did mention that everything that we grow is estate. So, and someone pointed this out to me the other day. They're like, well, you said everything is estate. Why do you call this one the estate? And I'm like, well, that's kind of funny. Let me think about that. We call it the estate because it's actually a blend of two of our vineyards. And everything else we make is actually a single vineyard wine. It's a single vineyard estate. So I was like, oh, that's why we call it the estate. So this is usually about 45% from our Stag's Leap property that surrounds our winery. And about 55% from another property we own in the Coombsville region of Napa.
Which is where the GO calls.
That's right.
From.
And in our Coombsville property, we have all 5 Bordeaux varietals. So Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. One of my personal favorites. And so this wine is a blend of those 2 vineyards, and has about 8% Merlot in it, has 2% Petit Verdot, and has 2% Malbec in it as well.
A little dry.
So
9:30 in the morning.
Well, I think
I think it's pretty well balanced, though.
is.
I mean, it's got
Great.
what do we say? Yeah, fruit in the front seat and tannin in the back seat. No, or what? I don't know.
So you got fruit riding shotgun with tannins, right?
So it's
perfect.
Right.
It's perfect.
Right. So, but it's not a big tannin bomb.
No.
So
no.
Which is a put off for me. So
Yeah.
I think this is drinking beautifully right now.
Yeah, I like to see tannins in balance. I like to see tannins that are, more so than anything, the quality of the tannins is really important. The texture of them, are they supple? Are they like suede? Like, to me, this is, I think about it as like almost like a suede type texture, right?
Like I love that you kind of talk about texture with all the wine and mouthfeel. And it's something that I think gets lost even when I'm drinking wine sometimes. So you're looking for fruit and flavors, but mouthfeel and texture is just as important.
That's because
especially when it comes to food.
So much
that's because Pinot Grigio doesn't have much texture. Once you crack ice in it and you're drinking out of a Yeti.
Listen, I'm not proud.
No
that's my porch pounder.
We are in a judgment-free zone here.
What's your nickname?
Pinot Grigio Joe.
Joe.
I don't know if that's my nickname.
No.
I mean, I think somebody might have trademarked that.
We may have said that when we were out in California.
Like
yes.
That is. Hey, no shame in that game. That's
No,
all I'm saying.
no.
I think that's wonderful.
You said 2023 was a great year. Kind of what made it a great year?
2023 was. I feel like it is a great year because it was a very. It's one of those, it was like a nail biter, like a cliffhanger, like the best cliffhanger movie you've ever seen, right? And you're like, oh my God, like what, like it was quite late getting started. Right. We had a lot of rain over the winter, so full water profile in the soil, late bud break, cold spring, and then just this amazingly moderate and beautiful summer, right? Which we have this saying in Napa that, you never know when harvest is going to start, but you know when it's going to end.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty sure you're pretty sure the first week of November you better have your grapes in because rains are coming, and that's just how our weather works. So it was getting on. It was getting a little bit late. I remember being out in the vineyards and seeing bloom on, I was at about 100% bloom on June 8th, which is the latest I've ever seen it in the valley. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to book my Labor Day weekend now because I will not be having any grapes on Labor Day. So what happens is it's a waiting game.
Right.
It's a waiting game. It's a game of patience. But it could have gone either way. Mother Nature could have just knocked us down with all kinds of stuff. Who knows? Early rains or or worse. And instead, we got one of the most beautiful falls I've ever seen in Napa Valley, and it was absolutely perfect. So what is that? Why is that important? Right? People talk about it, but why is that actually important to our wines? It's important because moderate weather helps us maintain all the beautiful color in our grapes. It helps us maintain all those aromatic precursors in the skin, right? Just like us when we're out in the sun a little bit, occasionally you might get a little bit too much sun, right? Okay. And your skin kind of reacts to that. Well, the grapes do that too. So they kind of have to moderate themselves, and a little bit too much heat and a little bit too much light, you can lose some of that all those wonderful color and aromas that you've been trying to grow all season. But it was a Goldilocks vintage. It was absolutely beautiful. Because it was gorgeous.
So I was out there the entire month of September.
Oh,
and I went to probably, I did go to 53 different vineyards, and
Crazy, right?
every one of the winemakers or tours that we went on said that they weren't even bringing in grapes, and really until the last week we were there, we saw some
slightly
grapes
nerve-wracking.
Yes. In fact, I think the winemaker at Foley told us that he has had 2 Labor Day weekends where he hasn't had to work in his career.
Yeah,
and this was one of them.
one of them.
Yeah,
we saw Michael just briefly there, so it was really great.
And he's had a great career in Napa.
Right.
So
but it was just interesting to hear that.
Years. Yeah, it was one of those years, and it plays with your mind a little bit because you realize as a winemaker how especially us how much acreage we're taking care of, how many tons we have, and you're like, okay, it's like playing the biggest game of poker in your life because you're like, how far do I push this? Like, how long do I wait? Well, I'm going to keep waiting, So.
And now, kind of tying that back into what we do. So we know typically on a Monday we're going to get busy at this time. So we bring our people in.
Right.
And so we know on Fridays and Saturdays, okay, we're going to be busy earlier, bring your people in earlier. Yeah. So for you, how is it when you have to push it back? Who picks the grapes? Who tends to those fields? Do interns come in and work in some of the properties?
We have interns. We are so lucky at Silverado. We have several people who come and work for us every harvest. We have 2 gentlemen, I call them gentlemen. They are absolutely awesome people, and they used to be full-time employees at Silverado. They retired, and they come back and they still work harvest for us every year, and they're amazing.
That's awesome.
They're so good. And of course, they know exactly what they're doing. So they're wonderful people to work with. And of course, we bring our team on at a time where we kind of expect to get started. But last year I was like, we're going home on regular days and we're doing a lot of cleaning around the winery, and and I think communication is really important at a time like that, where you're just telling your team every morning, like, hey, I know that the hours right now are just normal, and everybody expects harvest to be like this really fun time, but it's also really busy and long hours, which is good on one hand. You can earn a good amount of money, which is a nice thing to do that time of year. But at the same time, like, it does take a toll on you. We make sure that we give everybody a day off a week because you need it. And so I kept telling them, like, don't worry, like, the hours will come. Yeah. Have no fear. They will come, because we still have the same amount of tons to come in. It's just going to come in a very short time frame. And that's exactly what happened. Right. So we had about, our vintage last year ended up being quite compact, meaning I ended up with about 4 weeks-ish, about 26 days, something like that, to bring all of our red fruit in. Wow. Whereas I typically get maybe 6 weeks, right? Okay. So you can see that kind of, it's just, it's something that you have to work with your team, help manage their expectations, and then prepare them for the fact that long days are coming.
How many hours out of the day are you harvesting on when it's compact like that?
Yeah.
What time do you start? What time do you finish?
Right. So they, so our team in the vineyards will pick everything at night, because it's nice and cool for the workers. It's also nice and cool for the grapes. So they'll start arriving in the vineyards maybe 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and they will pick all through the night. And then the fruit is like right there first thing in the morning for us to start working with, which is fantastic.
That's awesome.
We are not, we do have a lot of land, but we're a pretty small winery. So like, we can't just take boatloads of grapes in the same day. So we kind of have to work through things very, sort of conscientiously, have a plan, have a good working plan for a few days out, right? So we get our fruit, we bring it in, we do optical sorting on our absolute best blocks. So that just means we pick, out the absolute best berries. I call it like, it almost looks like grape, caviar in a way, right? Like, it's so perfect by the time it comes out of that sorting.
Great caviar.
It is. It's like, I don't know if that's the...
So when will your first vintage come out?
Well, it is bottling right now.
How about that?
Some of it, we are, so cheers to that. Cheers to my team who's busy at work bottling. Yes, this is mine. So my white wines are already out. They have already hit the market. And my reds will be out starting pretty much in August, September of this year.
Looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to that too.
The care and concern about the vineyards and the grapes, and you raising them from babies.
I name them all.
I can't wait to get that first bottle of red.
I am excited about it too. I'm really looking forward to it, especially the Geo, especially the Solo. Those wines are just, I can't wait to see.
All right, so what we have to do.
We need to go back out and see her.
Well, no, that's going to happen.
That's happening.
Come on out.
Right. No, we're going to have to try them side by side.
Absolutely.
The vintages side by side.
That's a great idea.
Kim's going to have to come back and try those with us.
I will do that.
Okay. I'm going to save this bottle.
But that's a big one for a Wednesday afternoon. Not a Wednesday morning.
It's called Magnum Wednesday, right? It's like Taco Tuesday. It's Magnum Wednesday. I'm pretty sure. I heard that.
I don't hate
Maybe Magnum Monday.
I love that. Even
M&M, right?
Any day. Any
that's
day
true.
ending in Y.
That's true.
Could be a Magnum.
Well, listen, I know that you have a very busy day. We are just honored that you took time to stop by here before you go and do luncheons and wine dinners.
Tastings, chats.
Tastings, chats.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for sharing.
Cheers.
Travels.
And
Thank you.
I'll tell you at this point, there's nothing to debate. There's nothing to debate.
There's nothing.
No.
This is great stuff.
We could debate, should you drink wine at 9:30 in the morning?
Yes.
That's not a debate.
That's not a debate.
That's not a debate.
Sorry.
Okay.
Cheers.
That's the
Cheers.
business.
All right, thanks. That's awesome.
Bravo.